22. We have with us our political editor. Well, as far as the initial trends are concerned, BJP is leading in Uttar Pradesh, while the Aam Aadmi Party seems to be sweeping Punjab. There is a close contest in Uttarakhand and Goa. And in Manipur too, BJP seems to have a comfortable lead. What does it all mean? Where is it heading to? Let's try and understand and take your questions too. Sir, how do you see the initial trends for these?
These are initial trends, but what you see is what the exit polls predicted.
Right.
The trends are suggesting the same, basically. So exit polls might have got it wrong in the past, but this time they seem to be holding true. And if that happens, these are again to repeat, these are initial trends. So we should not be presuming too much.
Because postal ballot just...
Yeah, but then you see the gap. In UP, even after postal ballots, some rounds of, other votes have been counted. And the BJP has a very clear lead. In Punjab, AAP has a very clear lead.
Right.
So, in Uttarakhand, again, you were expecting, the kind of political drama that played out there last year. You were expecting the Congress to do much better, but the fact is, even in Uttarakhand, the BJP seems to be leading. And so is the case in Manipur and Goa.
Right.
So, if these things, these trends hold, then you have two big takeaways, I would say. See, in UP, it's the first time since 1985 that any government is going to be repeated.
The incumbent government, yeah.
And then it will be the first time ever in UP that a chief minister who has completed 5 years in office is getting a renewed mandate. It's a big thing. So for the BJP, you have this rise of a new person, new personnel, new leader coming from India's biggest state.
Right.
The other takeaway would be the further downslide of the Congress. Because Congress messed it up in Punjab, we all know. But look at other states also. As my editor-in-chief Shekhar Gupta, I'll steal his quote here. Congress is like an army without a general. They are still discussing who will be the next Congress president. So this ad hoc way of running the party doesn't work. And all the experiments in Punjab has failed. Now the big takeaway is if the Aam Aadmi Party gets to rule another state, that will be the only regional party to be ruling in 2 states, Delhi and Punjab. And then gradually you will see that implosion happening in the Congress. Gradually, Congress voters looking for another alternative now. So they may not be voting for the BJP, but nationally, they may be looking at AAP as a possible alternative among all the regional players.
I'll start with a few questions that our viewers have sent. Shubham wants to know, what were the muddas on which these elections have been fought and how have they worked out in each state if you look at the trends?
Mudda, everywhere in Punjab, it was a Delhi model of government, especially in health and education sector, that the Aam Aadmi Party really played up. Right. And for the voters, it was more of kind of disenchantment with the established parties. So anywhere in Punjab you travelled, people would be telling you, they are looking for some new alternative because Shiromani Akali Dal, as you saw, after the farm laws were brought by the centre, and Akali Dal was part of the NDA then, the core vote bank of the Akalis, the Jat 6, they actually got alienated from that. And then the Congress, the kind of mess the Congress got itself into, that actually somehow whetted that sense of, that yearning for change actually, that you need a new party. And then this Delhi model of government, free electricity and all that seems to have worked. In UP again, I would say the single most dominant factor was Modi, Prime Minister Modi in fact, and his welfare schemes. So anywhere in UP you travel, everybody would be telling you about the free food grains, PM Awas Yojana, Ujjwala Yojana, all the benefits they have been getting. So those things were there on the ground. So as one of my former colleagues was telling me in Lucknow, he said, current to SP ka hai, but undercurrent BJP ka hai. It's basically current because SP actually created a lot of buzz in UP. But then you look at a subterranean level, what is actually mattering to people, and it was these schemes. Again, in Manipur, you talk about issues, some parties like, say, NPP, or the Congress tried to make APSPA an issue, talked about it, but the BJP kept at this double-engine narrative. And the Prime Minister also announced some mega projects, about a dozen mega projects. and Manipur, the kind of instability the state has witnessed politically also. These things seem to work. To what extent we will see, whether the BJP will be able to get a clear majority or not. I mean, we'll have to wait for that.
Yeah, these are just initial trends.
Yeah, but that was a narrative there. In Uttarakhand, it's a bit surprising because, there was a huge anti-incumbency. Neealm was there. She travelled extensively in Uttarakhand. There was a huge anti-incumbency, especially because, the BJP changed 2 chief ministers again. If you recall, even between 2007 and 2012, when the BJP was in power, they changed the chief minister twice. The party did the same thing this time. And yet, if the Congress is not able to capitalize on that, that tells you the story about the Congress.
Rohan Indra, who's also a member of our YouTube channel, wants to know, are we seeing a shift away from caste-based voting to more developmental issues and service delivery such as drinking water, access to ration card? You talked about it too.
To an extent, yes. Caste has not gone out of our electoral discussion yet. But to an extent, yes. So Aam Aadmi Party, for instance, in Punjab, it's not targeting any caste as such. It's selling the development model. I was talking about UP, where those welfare schemes became the center narrative for the BJP. Despite the fact that there were other issues, of course. But the central narrative was the development works done by the Modi government, in fact. Yogi was also being talked about, but it was basically about Modi. So while you saw reports about, Mandal versus Kamandal and all that, and the SP actually based its entire narrative on that social engineering, bringing Rajbhar, bringing Swami Prasad Maurya, and all these non-Yadav OBCs. So the central message of the SP was that we are not just a Yadav Muslim party. So we cater to others also. But that message was laced with caste. It was different for the BJP. Not that BJP did not work on them, but that was not the central message from the BJP. Again, in Manipur, you must have heard, you have Metis, you have Nagas, Cookies, but then development was the narrative of the BJP in Manipur too. In Uttarakhand, yes, BJP was slipping, but caste, again, both sides had actually played caste card there in Uttarakhand. And of course, that Hindutva thing was there in the hill state. But the fact was, if you look at past elections, I have talked about it in the previous episodes. The gap between the BJP and the Congress has been so wide. From 2017, when the BJP's vote share was 13 percentage points more than the Congress, it went up to 30 percentage points in the Lok Sabha election. So gap was too huge. So even if huge, and therefore probably even though there was strong anti-incumbency against Dhami government, the Congress weren't really able to fill up that gap. I'm going by the initial trends. If it changes, we don't know.
Aditya wants to know, what impact will these election results have on composition of Rajya Sabha, something that everyone's been talking about, and will a win in these elections give the government a chance to reintroduce agricultural laws in the parliament? He means the farm laws. Farm
laws are gone. I mean, I don't really think government is going to push for it anytime soon.
Whatever,
because, after that you have elections in Gujarat and Himachal Pradesh later this year, in November, December. Then 2023, you have some big elections coming, Karnataka towards the 23, and in fact, you have states like Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan. I don't really see this government pushing that anymore. And what was the first question? About the Rajya Sabha composition.
Rajya Sabha.
We will see once we see the MLAs there. Yes. Probably in Punjab also you have some people retiring. If AAP comes up, because Punjab, you have elections in Rajasthan on 31st of March, I suppose. There are some vacancies in Punjab also. Punjab, if the entire composition of the assembly changes, you will have different Rajya Sabha results. So I haven't really looked at this thing very closely. But yes, composition will change slightly. Not that it will matter much, because the BJP was holding 4 of these 5 states. BJP was ruling in these states. So it won't really matter much for the BJP in terms of getting a clear majority as such in the Rajya Sabha. But there will be some tinkering, some changes in numbers, yes.
And Arjun wants to know something that, we have also talked about. What will be the future of the Aam Aadmi Party if the exit poll translates to results? Will this provide a boost to them for other states like Gujarat?
Yes, it will be, I would say, transformational for Indian politics, in the sense for the first time you have a regional party with national ambitions, being able to expand its footprints beyond one state. So look at all the regional parties today. Not one of them rules more than one state or has any sway in other states. Aam Aadmi Party gets Punjab, a full-fledged state, unlike Delhi, which is a UT, and proves itself there. You know, what is happening today is voters, even if some of them are disenchanted with the Modi government or the BJP, they're looking for an alternative, they don't really see any credible face of the party. If Aam Aadmi Party manages to emerge like that, it's not going to happen right away. It will take some time. I mean, it's not going to happen in 2024. But over a period of time, I think once they have established themselves as a possible alternative, it will have a big impact on the way politics is being played in our country today, and the way the Congress has been kind of, callously sitting and watching that, okay, we are the only alternative, where will the people go? It should be sending a very strong signal to the Congress that people are looking for a change.
Another question from Bhushan, who's also a member of our YouTube channel. Can you draw any parallels or differences in CM Yogi's rise, if he does well in UP polls, and PM Modi's rise when he was re-elected as CM in Gujarat?
Parallel in the sense, look, Narendra Modi was also sent from Delhi. For Adityanath, Yogi Adityanath, again, he was not the face. The decision was taken much later. In fact, BJP leadership was exploring the option of sending either Manoj Sinha or somebody else to UP. But suddenly, this Yogi Adityanath's name came, the RSS started backing him. Yes, so the way they became chief ministers, you can draw a parallel. And after that, the way they have been trying. So, when Modi came, it was right after that he had 2002 post-Godhra riots. Nationally, internationally, he was taking a lot of flack. So for him to change that narrative or the agenda of the government from firefighting on this point to shifting to this development narrative, when he became totally focused on that, and it was more difficult for him to change that perception. Because it was seen as, the state government was, obviously many courts, we have heard many court rulings later, but the perception was the state government was a mute spectator. It was not trying to intervene. That was the allegation. And that's how then CM Modi got a lot of flack. For him to change the entire perception from being somebody who was being identified with, post-Godhra riots, that his government did not act, to projecting himself as a Vikas Purush, it took some time. It was more difficult for him. For Yogi Adityanath, well, right from day one, I mean, it was the Modi government, literally. Votes had come for Modi, not for Yogi. Gradually, he has been trying to change that agenda. He has been trying to basically project that, we are there for development. He is himself trying to project himself like that, a Vikas Purush, another Vikas Purush. It will take time. It has been just 5 years. Then again, he's somebody, again, you are drawing a parallel. If Modi, he's known as somebody who is not with the family because he wants to work for the people. You saw how Yogi Adityanath tried to project himself as the same, that somebody who cares more about the people, not about the family. So even when his father passed away,
during the COVID,
COVID, he did not go there for the final rites. Basically, in a letter to his mother, he said that, I have to serve 22 crores of the people in UP. So these things have been happening, but Modi initial years, Yogi initial years, these are two different things. For Modi, it was more difficult. He might have got a majority right after that in the next assembly election, Modi. But for Yogi, it has been more comfortable. You have somebody like PM Modi to take care of you. People still vote for him. So it has been more comfortable, and in the next term, we will see how because he had no administrative experience at all, I mean, his first term. And you have seen some kind of communication gap between him and the party organization. How things shape up from here, we don't know. But we talk about the parallels. These are the parallels I can draw.
Well, we're getting a lot of requests from our viewers. They want to know how are the trends shaping in Uttar Pradesh. But what I would like to understand is that if the way trends are shaping up, how will it change the power equation within the BJP as far as Yogi Adityanath is concerned?
You should be talking about it, Neelam, because you cover the BJP. But the fact is, now you will have number 3 in the party.
Yes.
A clear number 3. So Amit Shah had been seen as number 2. But here is a chief minister, and again, somebody who has got a historic mandate in a way. We have talked about this. First chief minister to get a renewed mandate after a full 5-year term. He will be more powerful. As Neealm had just written a copy, and you should be reading it in a while. I mean, where we are talking about, how he will have to be brought in the parliament party's all-powerful parliamentary board now, the board which takes all significant decisions. Right now, you have just one MPCM Shivraj Singh Chauhan who is a member. But then Adityanath has emerged as the next big face, and he is somebody, probably he is the only leader after PM Modi who can get you votes outside the state. So when you talk to BJP MPs, I mean, they also say that, okay, Yogi Adityanath may not have actually blossomed the way he would be in the next few years. But even now, when he goes to campaign for them, he can easily get 5 to 10,000 votes for them in any state.
And
I mean, that's what MPs tell you. So they are also looking up to Adityanath's kind of bigger role in the party. And you have seen how the RSS actually pulled out all stops in UP just to ensure a second term for Adityanath. So yes, it's going to be a big change in the party. I mean, gradually, it's not at overnight something will be declared, but gradually you will see Adityanath's stature rising.
Another question from Shreyansh Pranshu Chauhan is, who's a new member, if BJP is not able to win the way it did in 2017 in Uttar Pradesh, then how will it affect the status of Yogi in BJP? So if we don't get the kind of performance we had in 2017?
Nothing will change right away. I mean, he's going to be the chief minister anyway. But yes, if you're talking about something like 210 to 15, he'll be a bit weakened, because if you remember, even in his first term, you saw this scene of 100 BJP MLAs sitting on the floor holding dharna. They were kind of trying to undermine his stature. They were protesting against the way he was doing things. During COVID also, you saw many BJP MLAs and MPs writing letters that not much is happening on the ground. We are not able to go to the people and support them. They were all taking a dig at Yogi. So if the BJP is anywhere around 210, 220, the chief minister will have to be much more accommodative. You may have party snipers coming out sooner than later. But then if the BJP is anywhere beyond 250 or 240, then you will see a more confident Yogi Adityanath, fully in control, with the party snipers also basically staying in bunkers. So.
And Rakesh wants to know the impact of these 5 elections on the third front.
It's a very interesting question. Look what happened. I don't know whether you saw or if you read about this. Even 2 days before the result, Aam Aadmi Party MLA Somnath Bharti, he addressed a press conference where he basically lambasted K. Chandrasekhar Rao, the Telangana chief minister. Basically, he's Chota Modi, nothing is happening in Telangana. Now, if you think about it, K. Chandrasekhar Rao, he and Mamata Banerjee, I mean, they have been meeting other non-BJP, non-Congress chief ministers and regional parties separately, trying to forge a kind of non-Congress, non-BJP front. And Mamata Banerjee and KCR have been the faces. Now, even before the results are out, exit polls are out, and you see the AAP going after KCR. So, obviously, you're going to see that fight in that so-called third front camp, where Arvind Kejriwal is not going to be just one of them. So what I gather from Somnath Bharti's press conferences, Arvind Kejriwal is going to project himself as the face, no third front as such. I am the anti-BJP face.
Raghav Chadha has also talked about it.
Yeah, so you are going to witness a lot of bickering in the so-called third front.
Alex wants to know, BJP is always sweeping the polls after the introduction of EVM. So is it something to do with EVM?
I don't know. I mean, not at all. I totally kind of reject this idea. Opposition parties have been talking about it, but you have had many elections where the BJP lost. It shouldn't have happened. So when the BJP wins, all these questions are basically thrown at the election commission. And when the BJP loses, everybody goes silent. So.
And how do you see the future of Congress as far as these 5 assembly elections are concerned?
Well, if AAP comes the way the trends are suggesting in Punjab, AAP will actually become a major threat for the Congress more than the BJP. Because people who have been voting for the Congress, I mean, Congress even in the last 2019 Lok Sabha election, so Congress got about 20% votes. But if those people are disillusioned, they don't see their party or the party leadership, performing, and don't see this leadership to actually replace the BJP or Modi anytime in the future, these voters will be looking for an alternative. Right now, they may not have an alternative. Say a voter in Rajasthan, a voter in MP, or a voter in any other state if he or she does not want to vote for the BJP, Congress is the only choice left. Now, this victory in Punjab will actually give them an option. Possibly the Aam Aadmi Party may emerge as the real anti-BJP force. So it's a big threat to the Congress, as the trends are suggesting in Punjab.
I will just take the last two or three questions. Ajay wants to know why doesn't Kejriwal resign as Delhi CM and become Punjab CM, because he will have full powers unlike Delhi.
Well, we have been discussing it for so long. Within the AAP also there was a lot of discussion. And I think at some point of time there was this idea in the AAP that, if we win Punjab, that was around 2017, and that was one of the reasons that the AAP did not really declare any CM candidate. Though then also there was a lot of buzz that probably when you get a full-fledged state, Arvind Kejriwal shifts there and does that. But this time you have, Bhagwant Mann as the chief ministerial face. So there is no way that Arvind Kejriwal is going to shift from here. I mean, you don't show Bhagwant Mann as the chief ministerial candidate and then you win the election and you go there and become the chief minister. It don't work like that.
Well, I'll just end with this last question from Shahrukh Kotwal. This is something that the Samajwadi Party has also been talking about. He wants to know what are your views on the Samajwadi Party's charge on creating a perception through exit polls to justify EVM tampering.
It's a bit far-fetched. And EVM tampering, this allegation has been flying all over for the last, 3-4 years now. Nothing has been proved. In fact, the Election Commission had thrown a challenge to all the political parties. Come and prove it. Most of them did not even turn up. So, I don't really buy this theory,
Sorry, I'll have to take this one last question. Arnab Bhattacharya wants to know, does AAP winning Punjab also mean that Arvind Kejriwal may emerge as one of the front runners as opposition phase in 2024? Something that you've already answered, but for our viewers who have joined
24, yes, for sure. But I'm talking about the long-term impact of Punjab election. So by 24, you won't really see Kejriwal kind of emerging as the alternative face to Modi. But in the next, say, 4 years, 5 years, when the Aam Aadmi Party starts expanding its footprints in other states, and there is some kind of acceptability, then maybe. But look, there are some challenges also. So it's very easy to govern Delhi. Delhi has been a capital city. So when you started governing Delhi, everything was in place. You have a lot of revenues to actually, throw as freebies. You can do a lot of things. But Punjab, that's a state in a crisis. It's a debt-ridden state. There are so many aspirations. I mean, these youngsters, you move around in Punjab, I mean, every step of the way, you have some unemployed youngster looking at you. Okay, what do we have for us in future? That will be a big challenge. It's very easy to deliver in Delhi. Delhi schools, when we were in the university in Delhi, many of our classmates would come from these MCD schools. The MCD schools were not that bad. I mean, now they might be looking a bit fancy with the painted classrooms, better facilities. But Delhi education system, even in MCD school, was not bad in the past. So what I am saying is Kejriwal inherited something good in the capital city. It was easy for him to deliver in the capital city, or at least project that he has achieved all this. But it's going to be a different ball game in Punjab, and people will be looking at the Aam Aadmi performance in Punjab before actually deciding whether AAP should be an alternative in their state also.
Well, thank you. We will be speaking to you once again after the picture becomes a little bit clearer. Also, we will be getting you latest updates throughout the day. Stay tuned and do subscribe to the Print YouTube channel.
Thanks, Neealm.